Okay, we are live. This is day 5 of. We are live. That's funny. I'm sorry, guys. This is day 5. I gotta be quiet. It's too loud. But just post this real quick. Day 5 of 365. Thank you for your patience. Anybody who's logged in so far, I am just getting this posted, and we will be good to go. So, 1 second. And I'm just wrapping up. So I appreciate you guys waiting. I'm trying to get a little faster at this. And with that, everything is tweeted out. Okay. So this is day 5 of 365. Thank you all. God bless everybody who's taken the time to show up and enjoy this process with me. It's so far it's been awesome. I've gone through going to church, reading the Bible at various times in different pieces. I've never made an effort to try to do it all in 1 year. In the Roman Catholic faith, it's about once every 3 years. So thank you, everybody showing up. Donna, Fake, Mason, Four Paws. Thank you again for showing up. I see you guys are showing up every day. So Genesis 11 is where we're going to start, and that happens to be the Tower of Babel. Now, it just so happens that the Tower of Babel is the story of man trying to create a tower that could reach the heavens, and they wanted to be, I guess you can say, equal with God. They wanted to connect with God or be at that higher plane with God. There's multiple interpretations. And, I was just speaking with a friend earlier today who happens to share the name of the faith, which is his name is Christian. And Christian brought up an interesting point, which is, God as the Father is trying to relate to his children, which are us. Every single human being on earth is made in the image of God and is a child of God. And meanwhile, God's trying to connect with us and to connect the message from the top down. And meanwhile, we're trying to get up to connect with God. So it's an interesting thing. Can't help but think if the pyramids had something to do with this concept as well, the way they were designed. With the apex of the pyramid trying to reach to the heavens. But basically, what I wanted to talk about with this concept is communication. And obviously, when we are trying to reach our heightened sense of spirituality or our connection with a higher spirit or God, depending if you're not Christian, there's a miscommunication that sometimes occurs. So I think not only was this a literal story where communication between different people that were trying to build this tower to reach God occurred, but there's also an underlying concept that ties into our experience with other human beings with regards to communication. So all of us are on different trajectories. Each of us have a different set of experiences, depending on which age we are at in our life. What our relationships are with different people, our family, our friends, our coworkers. And if you think of this story of the Tower of Babel, and you think about it with regards to your own life, we sometimes miscommunicate, and it feels as though we're speaking a different language. And right now in this country and all around the world, now keep in mind, I do believe there's some very evil people at work with some of the things that we're witnessing. So I'm not talking about those folks, but what I am talking about are the people that are misled folks, and people like us who might, when I say us, I mean people that are Christian and conservatives. But I do think there might be some Christians that are liberal. There might not be as many of them, but they do share some of the same core values as us. And for one reason or another, they ignore or downplay some of the importance of other things that are extremely important to the Christian faith. Like, Joe Biden is a perfect example. He holds himself out as a Roman Catholic, but he doesn't believe in those principles. And, it's easy for him to get away with that when we have a pope that's corrupt. So as a Roman Catholic, you have a corrupt pope, you have a Roman Catholic president who doesn't believe in the core principles of the Roman Catholic faith, and you got a really lousy situation on our hands. And so you can definitely say there's a bit of a miscommunication with regards to how those two individuals are even interpreting the liturgy of Christ. And so that's just one example. But now we go around through life and we run across different people and we miscommunicate. And sometimes we miscommunicate with people that we love. And so, I was talking to Christian about this, and I hope my wife doesn't mind. But I'm going to share an experience that I think kind of relates to this whole Tower of Babel today. And, some of you may or may not know, I can be a little bit of a workaholic at times, and I'm very driven to get things done once I've set my mind to it. And I have a certain standard in my mind that I don't always communicate very effectively. So you can say that this story with regards to communication definitely applies to me. I can do a lousy job of explaining things or going at a pace that other people could ingest the information, is the best way to say it. And that's not their fault. That's my fault. They're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes I'm in too much of a hurry because there's other things I think I need to be doing or want to be doing. And so the burden is not on the person that's listening. It's on me failing to slow down and adjust to the here and the now and the moment and so forth. So it's not an easy thing to admit, but it definitely ties into this. And I guess what I would say is, I married my wife for a lot of different reasons, but one of the draws for me was definitely her intelligence. My wife happens to be a genius, and I always knew that. And I would even say she's just a tad more intelligent than I am. She just shows it differently. And I think I really do believe that. I believe that from the moment I met her. She has a different level of intelligence that might be a little less obnoxious than I am. I'm not as reserved as she can be, but I know that she has an underlying intelligence that's very impressive and led to a relationship where we have some incredible children together, and we've had an incredible ride so far. And we happen to be in business together too. So it's we got like the whole package going on. We got a family. Like, she has to put up with me. She sees this politics stuff. Now we're business partners, and I can be a bit difficult and demanding as to what I expect we need to get done, and I could be a bit of a jerk. And I was a bit of a jerk about recently being yesterday, actually. And I knew that I screwed up, and I prayed on it, and I thought about it, and I know it bothered her because she wanted to speak, but I think she was a little nervous as to what I would think, and I could feel that she was it was bringing her grief. But before she can really fully tell me what she wanted to tell me, I can sense it, and I prayed about it in the middle of the night. And before I could tell her this morning, I could tell she didn't want to talk to me at the house, but she did talk to me at the office. And I said, look, I I prayed about it. I don't want you to say anything. I'd like you to just listen and what I have to say. And I said, I know I've been a little harsh with my words with you and not communicating effectively, but I don't blame you for that failing. It's my failing that I didn't take the time to figure out how to explain what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. But what I've come to realize is that I miss the conversations we had when we were just dating and courting each other. Like I was courting her more than at least I felt I was courting her more. Maybe she courted me. Maybe she felt the same way. But I was definitely courting her and wanted to be with her and build a life with her. And I come to realize that maybe you've been more silent than you were in the past because I'm doing a lousy job of listening. I'm not communicating. I'm not taking the time to hear your side of it. And I hate to say it, I haven't just done this with my wife. I've done it with other people at times. I can be a real jerk, I could be like one of these Koch brothers, where I guess you can call him Dick. Like I can be, I could be a real jerk. And I try to change my tempo and pace when I see it's kind of happening and I don't like it. And I've tried to, I think I've gotten better over time, like all of us tried to do. We're all imperfect and God still loves us. And I just said that, we, I need to fix this. This isn't something you need to fix, but I really need to fix it because, um, we have two daughters, which are absolutely brilliant, and they're geniuses as well. And so it's pretty. I don't really share this side of me. I kind of keep my personal life a little personal. I hope she's not upset with me saying it, but I'm very protective, I guess, about just how smart they are. Because people sometimes judge people that are really smart differently. Um, and I said, I can't grow up with, we can't raise them with this concept that you don't feel as though you can speak freely and communicate well with me because they're going to grow up thinking that's normal and that's not cool. And that's going to stunt their growth and it's going to hurt our relationship. And frankly, I don't want to I definitely don't want to be the cause of all that because of my failings. So I'm going to try harder and work on it and hopefully, fix that level of communication. So, the Lord works in mysterious ways because I got to tell you, I'm sitting there reading like day 5 and, and then, looking at the call of Abraham and, keep in mind, I'm being a jerk a little bit about some of this stuff with regards to what needs to get done for our business and everything. And, I'm a little hyper focused on attention to detail. And, I understand that it'll get done, but sometimes I need it to get done faster. And I need to be realistic at times, I guess, or make sure we hire more help if we don't feel it's happening at the pace that I want it to happen. And the call of Abraham is in Genesis 12, which is kind of interesting timing as well, because one of the names that we're thinking of naming our son, because our son is alive and he's fully functional on his own. He happens to be housed in my wife's belly, so he is not part of my wife. He is an individual. I want to make that very clear to all the liberals out there when they say that the baby is part of the mother. It's like you are absolutely out to lunch. That baby is independent, kicking, pushing, feeling my fingers. I feel that baby every night, every day in the morning. I love the fact that baby's doing somersaults and I can sense their energy and they can sense my energy. And somebody that tells you that's part of the mother is just unfortunately very misinformed. And you got to pray for people that think that way because they've been brainwashed and they don't even know that they are. If you don't believe what I'm saying with this point, just simply talk to a child. a child that hasn't been exposed to the media or the corrupt K through 12 system that we're living through, because our school system is being rotted out right at the core. So you have to get your child now. If you want to get a child before K that hasn't been in some type of daycare or something where those individuals are being corrupted by the state as well, and ask them what they think about a baby moving around in their mother's belly, or a relative's belly, and they intuitively know that that is another human being that isn't part of the mother. It's independent. It thinks independently. It flows and eats independently. So I just want to make that very clear. And this is why I said I already have 5 children, because the one alive in her belly that it hasn't shown us who they are just yet physically outside of the womb, I count them as alive right now. I counted them as alive. I don't want to get into politics, but the first heartbeat. And we can talk about that later because people get all worked up on that point. But anyways, Abram or Abraham, and I see this is the call of Abram. But I'm sharing that story because Isaac was the son that in earlier Genesis that he was going to sacrifice for God to prove his loyalty and his duty to God first. Because I've said in my life, the way I've structured it is God matters first, and then nation, and then community, then family, then friends. And I've had some pushback from people that think I'm a communist for saying such a thing, which I absolutely am not a communist. I believe in capitalism because it ties into the human spirit of freedom and liberty, and I guess freedom and liberty are the same thing, but justice for all, equity. But the reason why I say that is right now I have a family. I have 5 children. I'm married. And if I didn't put God first, it would be extremely difficult to go through what we are going through as a society. I'm not going to kid you. I would definitely be much more concerned and possibly more stressed out than I don't think I'm stressed out, but maybe I am on a subconscious level. But I think I would definitely be a little more stressed out if I didn't have a strong faith in God. And then I say nation afterwards, because if we didn't have a strong nation with an incredibly powerful, the most powerful military this world has ever had, with a bunch of Americans that I trust more than politicians, the military. I trust our military and our veterans far more than I'll ever trust any politicians. And if they weren't in place, I should be concerned for my safety and my family and my assets being taken and being killed. And so this concept that I got to put myself first and my family first, you're not living in reality, at least in my reality. Because if you don't have a strong nation, you're done. The Chinese or Russians or somebody would have killed us all off already. So we need God first, because we need God to have dominion over our nation. Then from our nation, we need to have strong communities with people that are like-minded with our values and our belief system. I got to tell you, if I was completely surrounded with lunatic left liberals who are atheists, I wouldn't be too happy about that. And I think they would wear you down and wear me down. And it would possibly undermine our faith in God as well as our faith in nation. So that's why I choose community after nation. You need strong communities that can balance the wickedness of individuals that want to have dominion and power over you. Sound familiar? Dominion with regards to some other systems out there. They want to have control, and they want to rule over you as though they're your God. And so then it goes to family, because we're all raised by a family. When we're born, we have our mother, and maybe it's a single family mom. I understand that, but there's still your mom is still your family. You're raised by somebody, and maybe if your mom put you up for adoption, you're still raised by somebody, and that's somebody that raises you, shapes you as your individual. And so that's the reason why I picked the order, and it ties into this whole idea of the Tower of Babel, because you go from God down to the individual level, and then if you look at us on Earth, we go from the individual level maybe up to God, and it just kind of cycles like a heartbeat. Is the way I think about it. It just kind of flows. It goes up and down, up and down, and we kind of move along the spectrum during different ages of our life cycle. Is the way I look at it. So that's part of this whole cycle, and I think that this kind of ties in to this week, today's reading. And so I just want to read Matthew 5, which is part of this. And this is the one day, Jesus, I guess he saw crowds gathering. Jesus went up to the mountainside and sat down. And I'm going to read this out loud. It's not too long. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him. And, you don't have to be poor to recognize that we all need God. But I think that when you're down and out, sometimes you have a heightened sense of your place in this world. It's very hard to find that balance, to know your place when you feel as though you're in a good spot in life or you're in a position of power. And the way I like to say it is, however much power you have, or how much wealth you have, or how much knowledge you have, that God will always have more than you. And you should not be resentful or hateful or angry or try to one-up God. That's just ridiculous. You should be grateful for all those gifts that you have, because on the way out the door, when you're leaving this world, you're going to realize how fleeting you are in the big scheme of things. It doesn't matter how much you learned and what you had and how much power you had. It's going to be what you left behind on the way out the door. And so I love hearing this from the standpoint that it sums up how I kind of try to live my life. For the kingdom of heaven is theirs, and the kingdom of heaven is theirs for the poor, because those who honor God, God shall honor, and they're more likely to honor God. So it's not excluding everybody else that isn't poor. It's just saying that they're more in touch with that side of their humanity. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Mourning is not just about the person that died, and I do believe the person that died or is sick, and you're mourning for their loss or your loss or somebody else's loss. I do believe they feel it and they can sense it, even though they might not be here physically. They can sense it spiritually. But mourning is always about coming. It's also about coming to grips with your own sense of self and what you did, or if you have any regrets. I do believe the mourning process is much shorter and much smaller if you don't have any regrets with who passed. And so if you've lived the life to the fullest and you've tried to have a relationship with the person that passed, and you did everything you could, and you worked as hard as you did, you will probably not mourn as much. You'll be sad, but you'll know that you did everything you could when you were with them. So think about that. If you want to mourn less when somebody dies, then make sure you have no regrets with what your relationship with that individual should have looked like. So I do agree. I agree with all of this, by the way. I'm just kind of walking through my logic on each one. God blesses those who are humble, as they will inherit the earth. There's a great song I remember growing up, and maybe I grew up in the 80s with Rocky, right? And every time I kind of see this line, I think of that song by Survivor. So many times it happens too fast. You change your passion for glory. Like that line sums up being humble. So many times you walk away from what you love doing for the wrong reasons, because you want to feel more important than others around us. And I say others around us because we're all equal before the eyes of God. We're all children of God. So I've gotten some wonderful emails and some incredible phone calls from people, and they're all I know this sounds a little silly, and I hope people don't take it the wrong way, but they're excited to talk to me. And I say this sincerely. I'm excited to talk to them too. I wish I had enough time to talk to everybody. I love talking to people, especially people that take the time to want to talk to me. Like, so I'm very grateful that people are willing to take time out of their busy life. They have families, they have their own things going on, their own responsibilities, and yet they want to contribute, and they want to not contribute to me, but to contribute to our society, to what we're working on together, what we care about collectively. Um, and I think that that's, when I think about being humble, it cuts, it's humble from both sides. They took, people that call, they're being humble too. They're taking the time to say, you know what, I want to connect with this person, not just me, with anybody. If they want to connect with somebody that they think shares their values and their beliefs, and they want to get involved, and they want to listen to other people's perspective. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that's one of the most enjoyable things about um, this human experience. And I think that I do believe that we that try to live our lives that way do inherit the earth, and we'll take it back from the evil forces that have been enslaving humanity. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Now, I'm going to use my first fire and brimstone part today. As my wife likes to say, this is where I love the book of Job. I don't worry about vengeance because God will have vengeance when it's appropriate. I'm just going to root God on when it happens. So I don't want that. It's above my pay grade. And I don't want to have to deal with the consequences of inflicting the vengeance. But I do like the fact that God levels everything out and evens the score. So that's what I think of when I see that. God blesses those who are merciful, for they have shown mercy. And I think when you leave it up to God to even the score when you've been wronged, you are showing mercy by default. And so you get a twofer. God settles the score if somebody did something they should not have done to you. And then you show mercy by not doing anything stupid and making things worse for yourself. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they see God. And so, you know, to have a pure heart, or attempt to have a pure heart as human beings, um, is to try to live a good life and do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because um, you're going to get any type of accolades. You don't need any accolades. God will give you your accolades, and you should sense it. You just intuitively know when you do the right thing for people. And so that's how I think you live with a pure heart. Is that, would you treat your mom that way? Would you treat your dad that way? Uh, and I think that that's a pretty good little litmus test. I think most human beings respect and appreciate their parents. If you haven't had parents that you feel that way about, I pray that you find peace, and perhaps you have a different lesson to learn than others. Uh, but you do deserve to feel that connection where you care about somebody more than you care about yourself. And I think it starts with your parents. And I think that's how you build that feeling of a pure heart. God blesses those who work for peace, for they are called the children of God. That's one of the most powerful things about Christianity that the left and these communists and the evil people around the world want to stamp out, because Christianity is a religion of forgiveness and not trying to constantly even the score. And at some point, to really have true peace, you have to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean you give up control to the other side, but you surrender the hatred and the animosity and the evening the score that you might be feeling to have justice. And so it's a fine line, right? Because there's justice to be had in real time for crimes and things that have been inflicted. But if something happened, when none of us were alive, for example, and we have a choice to start things anew, and We don't have to be wed to that. We might want a different type of justice, which is an acknowledgement or verbal or economic justice, but we don't necessarily need to war with different countries where we've had different grievances and fights with. And I think that's the key thing that's special about the way Christianity's principles can be applied in the world. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This is happening all across this country and worldwide. I'm seeing it firsthand with people that I follow, where they're being censored, they're being they're being threatened, they're being harmed, they're being vilified, lies made up about them. I try not to read any comments, and I do some reading, so I do appreciate all the comments people are making, and I think it's good for people to read them, and I wish I had time to read them all. But one of the things I heard, which is a good piece of advice back in, I guess, December, was try not to read the comments, the good or the bad, because it might start to distort your sense of what you're doing and why you're doing it and what you're working toward. So I try to keep it extremely um, uh, I try to be detached from the comments. I listen to them for insights and things I need to do better, but I don't take anything personally. And but I do take prayers personally. So it's it's a little weird. You're telling me I'm doing a great job, I'll be like, oh, thank you. I don't take it, I don't let it get to my head. But if you say God bless you, I immediately think about blessing you. And that's the way my mind works. But if you say something negative, and it's not constructive, I might just block you because I really don't care. So I'm like, I'm doing the best I can, and you go do a great job too. And if I go complain about you, why don't you block me and you can return the favor. So God blesses you when they mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. Well, first of all, I haven't been keeping score about how many people are making fun of me, but perhaps God is at this point. So I'll just move on from that. You are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it's lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It'll be thrown out and trampled afoot under the worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all those to see, so that everyone could praise your heavenly Father. Don't misunderstand why I've come. I don't come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth. Until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. I absolutely love that line. Not a single detail will ever disappear until its purpose is achieved. And, I've thought a lot about this in the past with regards to be significant or to be important. You only need to do something for a particular moment in time. Just one moment at the right moment can change the world. And even the smallest detail can change the world if it's God's plan that detail changes the world. And I think that's important for us to always remember, that when we're doing things and small deeds for family, friends, or even deeds for ourselves, that every single deed that we do matters, and that we should try to give it our all and do the best that we can. And so if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of teachers of religious law and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So it's kind of interesting that your righteousness needs to be better than the teachers of religious law. So what does that tell you? At least my interpretation is religious laws don't pay attention to the politicians of religion. The politicians. This is a big dilemma of mine, because I understand the importance of politicians in governing our society, but maybe it's because I'm so disgusted, with politicians, for so long, and actually become more disgusted as I've learned about their devious and evil ways. Um, I don't appreciate it at all, and so I do agree with what Christian said, which is with regards to the righteousness. You have to be more than the teachers, because the teachers teach what righteousness is. Where on the other hand, you have to go out and earn what they're teaching. You have to do the work. So, there's a saying, and this is one of the reasons why this is a little tricky, because here I am I'm trying to teach people different principles about business or in the markets or whatever, and like my perspective on religion. But I don't want to be deemed as one of these people that, well, you can't do it, so you just got to try to teach it. Like I've always had a funny feeling about that. And I'm not saying all teachers do that. I'm just saying there's a couple sprinkled in there that can't hack it in the real world, so they go teach instead. And that, maybe that's just far and few between. I'm just being a little facetious. Yeah, you have heard our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you're subject to judgment. But I say, if you are angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you're in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you're in danger of the fires of hell. Now keep in mind, when you call somebody an idiot or not up to task, if you do it, I think, because there's evidence and they're not competent, I think you're doing a service to society. And I think that we as a society have done a lot of injustice and disservice to our society by refusing to acknowledge that certain individuals just don't have the capacity to do different functions with regards to government. And they can talk the talk, and they can tell a good story, and they can use narcissism to portray an image that they've done more and accomplished more than they truly have. And we should be wary of those false idols, because that's what they are. They're nothing more than the calf that people worship, the golden calf in the story of Moses. You have to call that out. And I have a tremendous harsh streak in me when I feel as though there's people or individuals that portray themselves to be more competent than they are, because I think that's a great deception. Not just a deception to all the people that are looking toward them, but it's deception to themselves. When they do that, they're dishonoring their God, and they're literally they could be leading to disastrous consequences for anybody who votes for them in the case of politicians, or follows them in the case of business leaders and such. You shouldn't try to do something that you're not equipped to handle, if you're not equipped to handle it, because there's too much on the line if you make mistakes. Your mistakes are magnified. So I'm bringing that up because I've had some feedback about some of my criticism about individuals that are running for office. And I'm not going to shy away from it, because as a citizen, I think that we need to all speak up a little bit more when we witness people that are not competent. And you know what? At the end of the day, I just have one opinion like everybody else. And people can side with the opinion that they think makes most sense to them based on their own evidence. But I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm not going to be silenced from individuals to speak my mind. And I encourage everybody else to. And you may disagree with me, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, if these voting machines are properly working, we all just have one vote each, I guess, unless, somebody wants to change it, they pay it off. I don't know if that's happening. I'm just saying. Okay. When you are the way of the court, with the adversary, settle your differences quickly. Otherwise, your ancestor may hand you over to the judge, who will hand you over to an officer who will throw you into prison. And that happens, you surely won't be free again until you have paid your last penny. Yeah, we can move on from that point. So this is Psalms 5. And this one's not too long. And this is the last one. So sorry, it's going a little longer. We're at about 40 minutes. I'll wrap it up. Oh, Lord, hear me as I pray. Pay attention to my groaning. Listen to me, my cry for help, my King and my God. For I pray to no one but you. Listen to my voice in the morning, Lord. Each morning I bring my requests to you and wait expectantly. O God, you take no pleasure in wickedness. You cannot tolerate the sins of the wicked. Therefore, the proud may not stand in your presence, for you hate all who do evil. You will destroy those who tell lies. The Lord detests murderers and deceivers. Because of your unfailing love, I can enter your house. I will worship at your temple with deepest awe. Lead me in the right path, O Lord, or my enemies will conquer me. Make your way plain for me to follow. My enemies cannot speak a truthful word. The deepest desire is to destroy others. Their talk is foul, like a stench from an open grave. Their tongues are filled with flattery. Will God declare them guilty? Let them be caught in their own traps. Drive them away because of their many sins, for they have rebelled against you. But let all who take refuge in you rejoice. Let them sing joyful praises forever. Spread your protection over them, that all who love your name may be filled with joy. For you bless the godly, O Lord. You surround them with your shield of love. Now, keep in mind, this prayer on the Psalms 5, I didn't read it until just now. So some of these prayers I like to read as I'm going over what I did read with regards to the day's readings. But I'm very pleased to see that, God takes no pleasure in the wicked, which we all can agree with. And the other thing that I think is wonderful, that God will destroy all those who tell lies, and the Lord detests the deceivers. And as we're surrounded by deceivers in the political process across this country, and people that are trying to look at what's taking place as an opening to go and deceive, it brings me comfort to know that God will even the score with any of those individuals. And maybe God will work in mysterious ways to have people expose those individuals. So who knows what my place in that plan is, but I will gladly do whatever I'm shown that I need to be doing or saying to make sure that evil and deceivers and liars and cheats are exposed for what they are, so that we end this madness that has taken over not just Washington, but state government and local communities as well, because it's gone on for far too long and we can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I think we need to snuff it out once and for all. So with that, does anybody have any quick questions or comments on today's stuff? I see CT says facts. What does facts mean? What's that? I'm not sure what you're saying, CT. No worries, we enjoy it. I'm not sure what fake person is saying. Fake, do you have a name? Do you have a first name? What's terrible? There we go. I love the lag. So nobody is saying anything. So I think that praying for the military in the Middle East, I agree. What version of the Bible are you reading from? Well, the version that I'm using with regards to the app is called YouVersion. And I'm reading the book the 1 Year Bible. And so it's this app. It's downloaded like 500 million copies of this app, which is pretty amazing. And so it's the 1 Year Bible is what I'm reading. But my friend Christian gave me this Bible today, which was a very, very nice gift. And he's saying we should, he's suggesting, this is the New Living Translation, that I should consider going through the Bible this way. And what I told him is, I said, look, I have no problem with you logging in with me every day to discuss this version. And he hasn't committed to that. But I will say I may try to, I talked about this with the group, because I think I have about 75 people in the group, and I'm trying to figure out this chat function. So I wrote a few things. So I got to check to see if anybody responded. And I haven't had time to go and see if there's a little class on this app. But I'd like to open it up and maybe speed it up a little bit. And maybe on certain days of the week, we can have a conversation that's open-ended. And if it lasts an hour or lasts 2 hours, we just kind of keep talking. But make sure you have plenty of wine or beer or something. I'll make sure I have my martini and a glass of wine. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate the blessings, and for joining in, and being part of this experience that I'm having, and I hopefully you have a pleasant experience as well with this. And I think we'll both learn a lot from this whole experience if we take the time to read the Bible and think about it and how it applies to us on an individual level, as well as our family, our communities, and our nation, and our connection to our God. So with that, God bless you. And I know some Christians don't do this, but in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. I do still believe in that approach. I do think that God is all three, and that's one of the great mysteries, even if it's not in the book that people need to see it, like in the written word that way. I do sense that it's there, for me at least. So with that, God bless you. God bless your family and friends. May you find, and God bless this incredible nation that we live in. And may you find peace. And if you don't have peace, peace be with you. And if you don't have peace, I hope that you find it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.